Hi, this is Juliana Fort, and this presentation is on using animal as dramatic metaphor in play, an experiential activity for dementia patients and their caregivers. Drama therapy may be uniquely suited to help people with dementia and their caregivers who have negative beliefs about what it means to have dementia. It focuses on helping the individual expand their sense of what a person with dementia can be, as well as their awareness of the other roles they may play in their lives. The intervention can be used with pre-made animal cards, or the participants can be asked to imagine an animal from their imagination. During this intervention, the participants can be asked to discuss how they would handle life stressors as that animal, and an example can be demonstrated by the group leader. Using the animals of their choice, ask participants to relate experiences to their chosen card. After participants explore relaxation from their animal's perspective, they can share their insights with other group members. Identifying with the animal role allows for the patients, caregivers, facilitators, and any student observers alike to realize the importance of social engagement and connection as a healthy coping mechanism to stress. I'm a psychiatrist and I have special interest in this after completing drama therapy training at Lesley University. I'm interested in collaborating with other people on similar projects. Please send me an email if you'd like to collaborate with me or do a workshop with me. I got into this research because I realized that a lot of the patients that I treat who have mental illness often have a stigma towards themselves because of having mental illness. They often end up feeling that they are limited to that role and forget that they can play other roles in their life. Drama therapy allows them to have more flexibility and expand their role functioning. It allows them to have a bigger role repertoire and let go of some of the roles they don't want to hold on to and embrace some long forgotten roles that they would like to explore. The use of metaphor in particular provides safety. If a person is talking about themselves, they are more vulnerable and often don't feel safe. However, if they use an animal to represent themselves, it allows for play and a metaphor, which allows them some safety and distance, making them be able to share in this manner. It also allows them to understand parts of themselves that may be unconscious, to which they may have been unaware. This idea from the animal cards comes from an author named Garrett. She started using animal cards because people had some reservations about doing artwork or might judge their artwork as being inadequate or insufficient. Because of that, she began using the animal cards. However, people's imagination can also be used. Medical students were involved in this project and can be involved in these types of projects. They too are vulnerable to judging people as having mental illness. This is despite the fact that medical students in particular have a high rate of burnout and depression because of the stress that they go under during their training. Students that have participated in art groups have been found to have a lot more empathy and understanding and interest in their patients' stories after participating. When they've engaged in such activities that involve improvisation, they are often more relaxed, attuned, and here in the present moment, instead of being lost up in their head or in their studies. This study looked at how we can monitor if people are engaged in this kind of activity, and usually by looking at their tone of voice, their body language, and facial expression, we can get an idea of how engaged they are. The more engaged they are, the more spontaneity, creativity, movement, and participation that's noticed. The opposite of anxiety is spontaneity. So getting people to become spontaneous can help them relax and become more playful. And this can be particularly helpful to help people with dementia become more engaged. This is an example of the animal cards that I used during my intervention. With this particular intervention, we might start out with a group warm-up. The group warm-up could be something like sharing how people's day is going so far, or it could be sharing their name with a sound and a movement. For example, if my name is Juliana, I might be Juliana Jams would be an example. And then other group members can share, and that allows for people to begin to warm up to the play. Once the participants have picked their animal, we might ask them how that animal would respond to stress, and then how that animal would respond to relaxation. It is also helpful to help them move. I'm going to stretch here. This is particularly true, like if you're on Zoom. But to ask them what kind of characteristics they might want to emulate from that animal. For example, if they're an otter and they find out that otters relax by being playful, it might be that there's a part of themselves that wants to be more playful and fun. They often can learn from other people's animals and other people's sharing in the group characteristics that they would like to take on. In this particular example that I did with a group of patients, which included a number of older patients and patients with dementia, it was surprising how much social connection and engagement was the important insight from the exercise. For example, there was a person who resonated with being a dolphin. Initially, he stated that if the dolphin were stressed out, it would want to swim alone. He then realized that dolphins are social animals and it would actually want to be with other people. This came about with many of the different animal examples, and people began to realize that their self-isolation had a negative impact on them, while the social connection that was needed in other animals could translate to what they needed as well as humans. Throughout this exercise, people became more engaged, more playful, and more able to share their experiences with other people. This allows for a group connection and discussion that is quite meaningful despite the playful metaphors that are used throughout this exercise. The medical students were particularly involved, and it is felt like if you work at a place where you do have patients with Alzheimer's or their caregivers, there are often students in training, whether they're medical students or counseling students, and having them participate and get involved helps them to become more connected to the patients and caregivers as well. One thing that came out of this project was to try not to be judgmental and use terms such as healthy or unhealthy, but instead try to use terms such as maladaptive or adaptive. It is easy for people to judge themselves, and so removing judgments that have negative connotations can be important. I also found that for me personally, leading this exercise, I too learned that I needed social connection and that I had insights as well based on my animal. My hope is that people that do participate in leading this exercise will do it fully as a participant and not just watch and observe. This often is helpful to the other participants that are there. Here are some future ideas. You could have the participants even make up stories about what the dolphin or fish or horse would say if they could talk. They could also interact with each other. You could encourage them to make sounds and movements as the animals, and you could even have an animal party where the different members of the group interacted as those animals. Following some sharing, other ideas are to use journaling, joint art, or poetry. Drama therapy can be particularly helpful with these different activities. You don't have to be a drama therapist to use these activities. Play has been a part of the human condition if you look at children for years and years, and pretend is something that we can all do. Any person that has the ability to work with people in psychotherapy or through activities can incorporate metaphors and play and find that it could be very beneficial to the patients. Thank you, and here's my references, and thank you for participating.